Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragnix, and a little bit of a discussion topic today while I play a little bit of Skullgirls in the background. Now, I've played Skullgirls a lot on this channel, and if you haven't gotten Skullgirls, the Humble Bundle has Skullgirls, the full version of it, over at the Humble Bundle, along with a couple other good games. There's absolutely no excuse not to get it at this point. It's definitely worth the value with everything else involved, and honestly, if you haven't gotten it by now, what have you been waiting for if you like fighting games? Now, the topic I want to discuss a little bit today regards around Steam, specifically about user reviews, and a topic that I wrote about over at TechRaptor. I will link in the description below, and it talks about the idea of keys and user reviews and disclosure. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, there's a game called Epic Quest of the Four Crystals. Epic Quest for the Four Crystals was I think it's an RPG Maker game. If not, it's very close to one. And basically what happened was Valve was made aware of a situation regarding the game, that Rose Portal Games and Aldoria Games gave gifts or keys in exchange for people to leave reviews. Not necessarily positive reviews, but reviews nonetheless within 24 hours of the game's launch. Now, one may argue that they were just trying to get people to review their game, their look at their game, but you have to understand what this causes. First of all, the fact of the matter is that you gave a key away for exchange for coverage of your game. Now, I do this all the time in terms of I get keys from developers so that I can look at their game. Most of the time, it's because of the reason that I want to look at the game early. The more information I have as a reviewer to be able to critically analyze the game helps me out, but it also helps the developer out, especially with a good game. The fact of the matter is that I disclose every key I give to you guys, and I disclose even the littlest of things, whether I have a friendly relationship with the developer. I try not to have relationships with the developer, only because, again, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest kind of thing, but of course, we're human. We're wanting to make connections with people. But to give review keys away for a game, you've already sort of biased the pool. What do I mean by that? Well, basically what happens is that you get something for free. I mean, let's face it, if you get something for free, you're probably happy about it. The fact of the matter is that even if you try in your best interest to keep that out of your mind during a review, it's going to come up. I mean, if you have any sort of very, very stable, or not stable, very specific situation where it's like, I don't know if this is good or not, you're maybe going to lean on the good side of it because of the fact that, oh, these people seem nice, or these people gave me a key, they obviously think their game is good, okay, I'll agree with them. Now, in most laws, in most countries, you do have laws that protect the consumer from misleading reviews, and in this case, that's why Valve got involved in this case. And I have to give Valve credit. I know I've shit on Valve, recently regarding their service, regarding the lack of response that they do, but in this case I do think that they took action. They removed all user reviews in this case. Why all user reviews? Well, unfortunately, because of the fact that they couldn't tell whether or not the situation, what review was affected, what review was not, they said, hey, look, we can't tell, we're going to take all the reviews down. If you wish to repost your review, you're welcome to do so, but we have to do this. It's all they could really do in the situation here in terms of the actual user review part. But I do want to talk about, what kind of consequence is that? The consequence here is the fact that, okay, all the user reviews are gone now. But unfortunately, the damage has already been done. The fact of the matter is that sales for Steam games usually happen in this opening period. The opening period and the release date is critically important to a Steam game in a good amount of cases. There are exceptions to this rule, and there are certain elements that change that in accordance to certain coverage. I know the other day I saw that Honey Pop got about 20% of their total sales just by Markiplier playing the game. And Markiplier didn't play it at the start. Markiplier played it, I think, about a month ago. And that's huge. But in most cases, most of the user reviews are when the game is exposed on the front of the Steam store. That's where people see it and they're like, oh, hey, look, a new game. That looks interesting. Let me click on it. In order to get on top of the Steam store, it's a variety of factors that no one really truly knows about. Only Valve does. But what has been seen is that positive user reviews and discussion in the forums and things like that will get you to the top sellers page. And in this case, this happened for Epic Quest of the Four Crystals. In fact, it was, I think, #1 for a good weekend or two. Not two, just one. So obviously there is a financial gain to get good user reviews on there. Now, I'm just gonna tell you guys straight up. When I cover a good game, I want the dev to do well. I want the dev to do well in terms of sales so he can make another game and improve on it. Even with games that I've played before that I don't necessarily recommend, I still want to cover them because, again, like in the comment on the Panarium video, just because I don't like it and it doesn't come to my taste, doesn't mean a good game can, not fit your review style, or a review style, I should say, more so your gameplay style. And that makes a huge difference in terms of, okay, even the smallest of videos can actually make a sale or two. Not all of them will, but they can. So when you have reviews that don't disclose that information, it's really misleading, and it sucks because, unfortunately, you have a system where you're actually better off, and not morally, but better off in terms of the user not disclosing it at times. Even though there's FTC guidelines now, sometimes people look at that disclosure and like, oh, he's already biased. Sadly, it does happen, and unfortunately, it's something that you have to live with as a professional reviewer. I don't consider myself professional. I'm not making the money to make this a financial, success at this point, but that's what I would like to be. And it sucks that when this comes up, when not only the company got away with it in this case, because let's face it, the damage has already been done in this case. Now, could you have fines on the company for maybe violating a terms of service? Yeah, hopefully you could, and maybe Valve will do that, maybe behind the scenes. But it's one of those situations where, as a company, I can't see where the negative benefit is other than press. And we've seen with situations like this that negative press doesn't necessarily do damage to a game. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. It can bring a game to the forefront that no one would talk about otherwise, and actually buy it for almost laugh purposes. I can think of Slaughtering Grounds and the stuff done over by whatever that little kid destruction one is by the same company. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But what am I getting at? I mean, you're probably hearing me ranting and be like, what is the point that he's trying to make? I feel like situations like this don't get the sort of exposure that they should, or the punishment that they should. We've seen situations where they finally, with like Machinima, finally acted upon the Xbox One promo that they did, finally finding Machinima after about 2 years, I want to say. And that's insane that it took that long for it to be brought forward and, go to trial and things like that. But not only that, we've seen recent states of Dead Realm where videos of people who have a financial gain in it not disclosing that information, and nothing seems to come of it. There are still videos being created by those creators that, unfortunately, are still not disclosing the information properly. I don't get it. I mean, this should be something simple. I mean, I think maybe part of the problem is that it's not built into the systems in question. What do I mean by that? Well, the fact of the matter is, if you get a key from a developer before the release, sometimes it will say a pre-release review. And, that's a good way of identifying, hey, wait a minute, this person got a key for it. But that's not always the case, and especially when it's, after the review time in question. I don't understand why those keys aren't marked a certain way so that it's always said this key was gotten at this point, so that Valve themselves displays the information on page saying this key was gotten via another means, whether it be it was a promotion, whether it be, for a review purpose, so on and so forth. There are ways to obviously sort of try to get around that, but I feel like that's a step in the right direction at this point. I have always talked about the fact that disclosure shouldn't be an option. I mean, it shouldn't be left to necessarily the user in question. Again, there are ways to build it into the system. And in particular, there are times where your own system sort of fights against that. I've always fought with the curator system because there's a limitation on the information you can put in the curator system. But you should be disclosing it in the little curator blurb if you got the key from the developer. You have to, in fact, via the curation system. And yet, you're sort of bounded by that. I know people gave feminist frequency a little bit of a hard time for not disclosing some information regarding ties in their curation system. And the part of the thing is that while I agree with those people that, are critical of them, I can also see that, well, wait a minute, how the hell do you fit that information into that, I don't want to say 140-word blurb, I don't think it's Twitter-like, but in that Twitter portion, especially if it's more complicated than just dev key. Like, okay, I know somebody financially, or, I'm related to somebody financially to this game. You can say that you can just, you just don't curate it, but if it's a good game and it's something you do believe in, I can't necessarily fault them for it as long as you disclose it. But if you don't disclose that information because of the information there, you see what I'm getting at, guys? Sometimes the system really makes it hard to disclose at times. You actually can take hits on search ranking and SEO because you disclose the information at the start of an article as opposed to the end. I've seen that with, some of the stuff with TechRaptor. And it's just like, well, that seems like it shouldn't be punished at this point. You're following guidelines, you're following information like that, and yet, for some reason, there is this problem where, it's almost not ingrained in our heads where it's like, you have to disclose this. Now, going back to the Epic Quest for the Four Crystals thing, I did reach out to developers, and I've not gotten a response as of yet regarding, the situation in question, which it does suck, I would like to get their side of the story, but, sometimes it is done in honest to goodness, like, oh, I didn't realize this. Now, I don't necessarily believe it in this case, considering the information in question, but it is possible. I mean, the fact of the matter is they didn't say positive or negative. They just said a review. They want people to cover their game because, they think it's a good game and they just want people to cover it because they think the game speaks for itself. I can understand that as a developer. I can understand that as a YouTuber. I mean, one of the things that I have struggled with on this channel, and people have known this for a while now, is my PR. The fact of the matter is that I'm not very good at it. I think I make good content in terms of the content in question, but I don't necessarily have the personality like a Markiplier or anybody like that. I'm very professional in my approach, but it's like once people come around the channel, they seem to stay. Okay, cool. But it's getting people to see me, and that's where the big problem is. I think I make good content, thus I want people to see me, but how do I do that? Do I incentivize it? That sort of sucks that you have to go that far, but sometimes you have to go that far. And I understand the struggle as a developer, I really do. I'm not forgiving the developer for this, but I can understand where they're coming from, especially in an industry where there's so much information out there, there's so many games out there, that, you run into this problem where it's just like you're lost. You could make the greatest game in the world, but you could still be lost in the sort of, sea of indie games, the sea of information. You'd think quality would rise up, but unfortunately, that's not necessarily true. Prime example, in my opinion, is Renowned Explorers. And I should be doing more coverage on that game because that game is fantastic. I mean, yeah, it had problems at the start. They fixed a couple of those problems. Some of my colleagues have picked up the game and said, hey, look, I really enjoy this game. I'm glad that you recommended it at this point. And, that's good as a reviewer. It's like, okay, game that got another sale thanks to, what I saw in the game. Great, Even if I'm not financially tied with the developer, that's a good feeling for me because, again, good games deserve coverage, and Renowned Explorers, fantastic example of that. I know this is going a little bit off topic, but I really am passionate about this stuff because, it is a really weird industry to get noticed in, and the fact is not everybody's playing on the playing field, same playing field in question. The fact is, I think that sites like YouTube, sites that curate and curates a interesting word there, but hosts this information need to do more to help the consumer and the people who need to use their systems to disclose this. Give them more tools to disclose with. Don't make it optional. Make it mandatory. Make it indicate that, hey, look, I got this key via a user or the developer, because you should be able to tell that via a request system. Stuff like that. I mean, I feel like if we're really going to get rid of this problem, it's got to be systemic rather than sort of a group of people just going around trying to fix these problems, because unfortunately that group of people can only take care of so many instances, and yet on the system side it should be able to at least curve the problems in question rather than focus entirely on just letting the users take care of it. All right, I know this discussion got a little bit off topic, but I did want to sort of rant about this for a little bit. I am working on an Arcana 3 Heart, I hope I did that right, review, as well as doing some Desegia stuff over at Tech Raptor. You will see more content from me later in the week, and I will see you all later. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this content and want to see more of it, you may want to hit that subscribe button on the left-hand side. If you like this video and want to see more of this content, take a look at this video on the left-hand side as well. And if you missed my last video, take a look at the right-hand side. Once again, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.